in which you analogize the crypto world to the Wild West. I guess that makes you the sheriff. So as you get ready to hang up your spurs, is it less of a Wild West? I'm really belaboring the metaphor, but is it less of a Wild West than it was as you leave this office?
My daughters, if they ever watch this interview, will ask, "Where are your spurs, Dad?" I think that we've done some good things. Look, I came in, my predecessor, Jay Clayton, who was in this office, had also tried to address this new emerging part of finance. And as you say, it's less than 1% of our overall financial markets. But it was then when Jay was trying to address it, and he brought 80 enforcement actions in this area. We've brought in about 100 in our 4 years. It was consistent. It's maybe about 5% of what we do in our law enforcement. That means there's 95%, in a sense, unfortunately, about other things, scammers and fraudsters and so forth. But in this field, it's rife with bad actors. And let me just split the field into two just for a minute. The public knows a lot about Bitcoin, which is, depending upon its market value on any given day, is 2/3 to 80% of the market value of crypto. And then there's everything else, or some people say Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else. These 10 or 15,000 projects, they're raising money from the public, and the public's investing, or the public's investing hoping for a better future. I've been around finance for over 4 decades, and everything in the markets trade on a mixture of fundamentals and sentiment at any given time. But I've never seen a field that's so much wrapped up in sentiment and not so much about fundamentals. And these 10,000 to 15,000 projects, many of them will not survive. They're like venture capital investments. They're not going to survive. But there are also a fair number of small pump and dump schemes and other things in this. And of course, we've lived through a few years where, they became notorious, but they're in jail. The Sam Bankman-Frieds and the CZs and the Do Kwons, where tens of billions of dollars were lost by investors.
Can I ask you about those? Because early on when you talked about enforcement, you said bringing high-profile cases could lead to a change in behavior. Are you satisfied that those cases has led to a change in behavior in this space in particular?
It's a field that built up around non-compliance. And I'm proud of what we've done, building on what Chair Clayton and others had done previously. I think there's still work to be done, particularly I'm saying about these 10 or 15,000 alternative coins that are there, and the intermediaries themselves. I think there's still work to be done. And I think the public is probably aware of this, and less than 10% of the public invests in this field. I think various Federal Reserve, and even we did a survey here, these public figures, it's somewhere between 7 and 9% of the public. Should be aware these are highly speculative, volatile investments, and they're not getting the full and fair disclosure that's appropriate. What we're about here at the Securities and Exchange Commission for 90 years is letting the public decide what they want to invest in. And secondly, that the intermediaries, the brokers, the stock exchanges, the advisors, are giving that advice and doing what they're doing without fraud, manipulation, and so forth.
Settle something for me, because I think when you came into office, a lot of people looked at your immediate background, having researched a lot of digital assets, worked on them at MIT, and thought that you would be perhaps a champion of them. Has there been an evolution in the way that you approach crypto over that transition from academia to here, or while you've been here?
Here's the evolution.
People think you are somebody who's adamantly opposed to
Here's
crypto.
the evolution. When you're in academia or when you're not in this job, you can study something and observe it, as I did, and try to teach students what's the value proposition about this new technology, what's the value proposition of this new investment vehicles. But then when you're in this job, this is a chair of a 5-member commission over roughly 5,000 people that's a law enforcement agency. And so now one gets in this chair, building upon my predecessor had brought 80 cases, so we brought about 100. And this is a field rife with challenges and non-compliance with the securities laws. So sometimes people, you take an oath of office, you do what you can.
And by the way, just replacing one central monopolist with another central monopolist, a lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways to beat the current monopolist. But I, having been around commercial banks for a long time, they really are looking for ways to replace their aggregators in their back office, whether it's clearing, settlement, exchanges, credit agencies. But they are deeply understanding, because they are pretty ambitious and very good at making money as well. They deeply understand that every idea that's pitched to them is somebody who currently is small but wants to get big and gain market power. So they're also always thinking about how to ensure that there's a check to slow down your startup from gaining market power 5, 10, and 15 years from now. They don't want you to be the next clearinghouse like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or Intercontinental Exchange. They don't want you to be the next central node of market power. So you might share some of that with them, or you might find an incentive system.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher, and I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Gary Gensler riding off in the sun, and is still saying that the industry is full of non-compliance. So he's sticking to his guns, but still didn't change anything that Jay Clayton had done in his era. Gary Gensler knows the power of this technology, but remember when he first came in, the same thing with Janet Yellen. I told you they were chess pieces in order to kick the regulation can down the road. And Gary Gensler admitted how small this space is and the limited amount of people that are invested. They don't want the masses to know. They don't want the masses to know we're about to get a whole new economy. But if you look at the stock market, people invest to make money. And if you look at penny stock, majority of those disappear. They're worse than the pump and dump meme coins. But at least they tell you they have no purpose. They just tell you it's a community. You're not being sold that it's an actual company like plenty of the penny stock did now, and especially back in the past. And then he touches on the Bankman's FTX, which we know that was an inside job. Do Kwon, we know that was a stable coin run. The only person can do a run like that, as we know, the banks. And then CZ was just an AML situation that could have easily been fixed. But we know Gary Gensler was at MIT. That's why he tried to sidestep the question. He said out his own mouth that the banks have a monopoly and they're not going to allow you to take over. They'll use your technology, they'll integrate it, but you're not taking over. And that's something that he gave us was facts. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we know the government has not changed. If you have the NWO book, you understand how they've been using musicians forever. Actors, actresses. We know Malcolm X used to talk about it all the time. Muhammad Ali, all the rock stars used to talk about it. And we know what they use rock and roll to push. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And then we have Waymo gearing up to not only go across the United States, but international. Guys, cars with no pedals, no steering. That means they don't want us driving them. And don't forget, they can program these robots to drive the cars that will have a steering wheel and pedal. But we know when it comes to Trump, he had pushed this when he was in office. He was pushing AI. He was pushing the driverless cars. Now it's his job to land us in this fourth industrial revolution. But over the next 3 years, we're going to see private ownership of cars drastically drop. We already see it coming down, but it's going to drastically drop because the younger generation won't have the big money to spend on these cars. And then on top of it, we know they want a chauffeur. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day. No hard feelings, Obama. Where is Michelle at? I wish I could have left Melania at home. She's always nagging me. Trump, do this. Trump, do that. But did you see how I won in a landslide? Yeah, Trump, you beat her pretty bad. I wish I could have ran against you. I tried to help her, but I got cooked. I wish you luck in getting these sheep moved over to the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is going to be big. I got 4 years to get it done.
Been talking about this election now that brought Donald Trump back to the White House and this wild ground game that Elon Musk was running for him. You were way ahead of your time. The Allman Brothers were passing the hat to raise money for Jimmy Carter on tour. You actually did help to get him elected.
Well, we did. 6 months or so, the announcement came that he was running for president. And this was the first year, if you recall, that the first election where the government would match the funds. So we were asked, would we be interested in doing a series of concerts to raise some funds, and then the government would match those funds, and that did indeed help get him elected.
In a purpose-built vehicle, inward-facing seats, no steering wheel, no pedals. They like Las Vegas. It's flat, but you can see the use case where a tourist flies in, zooks, straight to the Strip. When are you going to be here?
We don't... Nothing to share on that right now. Nothing to share on that. No news, no breaking news on that. But obviously, Las Vegas is a very attractive market. And one of the things you'll see from us in 2025, we've already announced that we are partnering with Uber to launch in Austin as well as Atlanta. Right now, Austin is limited, but we will launch. And also in Miami, we've announced that we will start testing there this year and launch there. And one of the things you'll see from us this year is testing across a host of cities so that we can launch over the next couple of years throughout the U.S. and internationally.
It's been a privilege, really, to be able to just participate in many of what you and your peers are doing on the road, right? That's kind of my thing. I like to go and not get behind the wheel anymore, but put my faith in a robo-taxi. There were times, though, where you were pursuing other lines of business, which was really interesting, trucking. Is the door closed to that? Things like delivery of goods, because the technology is applicable to those scenarios, right?
That's exactly right. No, our strategy is the same. We just, there's a lot of humility that you need when you're doing something that requires so much discovery. And one of the things we realized is we were just doing too many things at once. And so we decided that we would pause, but we didn't pause trucking entirely. We have a partnership with Daimler Trucks, and it's for a redundant platform. You can't remove a human unless you have redundant braking, steering, and compute power in a car. And so we have a redundant platform with Daimler Trucks. So that gives us the opportunity to resume that line of business when we're ready. Local delivery is something. We had a really fun partnership with Albertsons where we did delivery from Safeway stores in San Francisco. And as I said, making our technology available to automotive partners. Over the years, we've seen many automotive partners not pursue level 4, which is technology where you actually don't need a license or anyone behind the wheel. And Waymo's the only company doing that. And so making our technology available to automotive partners is also a really important part of our strategy. So it's a big, audacious strategy for a very hardworking team of what we refer to as Waymonauts. I think on a really important mission.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China. But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're going to get more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The Stock Channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.